Tonight marks the start of week 6 in the NFL season, and I still don't know which teams are good. We put together our power rankings this week. We're going to get into those right after this. Well, while we may not know which teams are good, we definitely know which teams are bad. And two of them, unfortunately, we have to suffer through watching play a football game tonight, that being Chicago and Washington. That's going to be last week was a train wreck. This one's going to be even worse. So, it is what it is. These two teams we know are going to be at the bottom of our power rankings. So, you know what? We might as well just jump right into those, get through these bad teams. Up near the top, though, again, this top 10, there's a lot of teams that, not a lot. There's a couple teams in our top 10 that I wouldn't have expected to be there at this point of the season. But here we are in a season that feels weird compared to others, where like there are the teams we know are good, but then there's a lot of teams that, like I said before, we just don't know if they're good or not.
Right. Yeah, I agree. This week we have we have the same top 3, spoiler alert, but the Vikings situation is also interesting because we're probably should be beating these teams a lot easier than we are, and it's obvious that we're better, but the funny thing is we're like barely beating these teams that aren't that great, but we're continuing to win, and then all these teams that were kind of in front of us are like losing a bad game, and then we just like slowly make our way up the power rankings, which I think is fair. But for even what our power ranking is here, I still need to see a statement game out of them to really feel their spot. But
for
still,
sure. But yeah. So let's jump right into those power rankings. Here we are, week 6. Let's go. Number 32, the first team to fire its head coach. That is the Carolina Panthers. This team is an absolute mess. Sounds like they might start trading off some pieces. Ugh.
Yeah, if you fire a head coach midseason, which doesn't happen happen a lot, and even what's Myers, I forgot his first name, from the Jags last year. It took him Urban Meyer. Yeah, it took him a half the season just to get kicked out, and he did all types of terrible shit. So for the Panthers to get rid of Matt Rule this early, it's obvious that they're not a good team and have to go in a different direction. But who knows? Maybe the switch will change things up. They do have some talent there, so we should see.
But they might hold this 32 spot for the rest of the season.
They could.
Yeah, who knows? Washington Commanders, as we mentioned, play tonight. This team is another mess. Ron Rivera is starting to see what every other head coach of Carson Wentz saw, that he's just not it. When they asked him, what's the difference between you and the other teams in the NFC East that are all 3-1 or 4-1 or undefeated, he said quarterback. Not a ringing endorsement.
And not just that, but if they have some sort of conundrums going in the like upstairs for the organization, and if their owner has to go all the way to the point of hiring private investigators to get dirt on the rest of owners so they don't try to push them out, that's probably not a good sign for them now or the future. So they might be sitting at 31 all year long and going into the future there.
Yeah, it ain't good. In a surprise though, the Houston Texans won a football game against the Jacksonville Jaguars, who we thought were good. They probably still are, but this is just not a good loss.
Bad game,
but a good win. But a good win for Houston and Lovie Smith.
Very good for Houston. Houston's just kind of been like, even though we've had them as like the worst team, they've kind of just been there in all these games. Like they're not getting absolutely annihilated every time like a really bad team usually is. They're kind of hanging in there, but they just lose. This one, that was a big win against Jacksonville, I said, because Jacksonville has been pretty hot up until obviously, they're cooled off now. Losing to the Texans, but yeah.
Okay. Anyway, moving on, number 29, you have the Chicago Bears, mainly just moving up because other teams needed to stay where they were and move down a little bit. Obviously hung tight with the Vikings. Justin Fields looked okay at times. I still don't think he's that great. I don't know. They have talent there, but again, it doesn't seem like it's going to work out this season for them, but who knows?
Yeah, there's just not enough firepower, I think, on that team. And obviously Fields played all right. He had a decent game against us, but we're kind of allowing that to happen lately. But overall, we still won. And for the fact for them to be up on us at any point in that game, I'll allow them to move up one spot.
Yeah, for sure. Moving on, 28, you have the Pittsburgh Steelers. Again, like I said last week, Mike Tomlin's record or streak of not having a losing season is in serious jeopardy at 1-4. Kenny Pickett's going to be the starter the rest of the way. We'll see if he can figure it out. Maybe when TJ Watt gets back, they'll get a little bit of a spark. But for now, this team, it's just, I don't know. It's not a good football team this year for them.
No, not at all. Yeah, it'll be interesting how Pickett can, like, obviously he just had his first game. If he can turn into a decent rookie starter, like we've seen sometimes or whatever, you never know. They still have a lot of firepower on offense. They need to use Najee more. Pickens is really starting to blossom with Pickett, and if that connection continues to grow, that could be huge for them. And they still do have a pretty solid, at least solid names on the defense. And if TJ Watt does come back, they are a team that's way down here that you could see turn things around.
Yeah, you never know. 27, the Detroit Lions started out. People are kind of high on them, thinking they lost a couple close games. This last week, though, just getting absolutely annihilated, shut out. Not a good look for Detroit. Obviously, Amon-Ra St. Brown being injured, no DeAndre Swift, but just it just didn't have the same feel of the Lions teams in the past. I like Dan Campbell, but I think he's just going to be the scapegoat for this team, and they're going to start over fresh next season with a new head coach. But we'll see. We'll see what happens there in Detroit.
Yeah, the talent's there. They were their biggest drop this week against a Patriots team that's been pretty up and down up to this point. So, and not to score a single point against them after being the highest scoring offense. What's that?
And a rookie quarterback.
Oh, yeah, with a third string quarterback in Zappy. So, yeah, that's not good. That's not a good look for them.
No, definitely not. Moving on, number 26, staying in place of the Seattle Seahawks, putting up a lot of points, but just cannot find ways to win football games. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think Pete Carroll is probably short for the job as well. Again, he might just get one of those like promotions, which is actually, just being taken out of his head coaching spot, but they want to keep him around. I don't know. There's firepower on the Seattle team for sure, but it just ain't looking good.
Yeah, I think their defense is pretty weak. And, they got our Penny's hurt now, even though Walker looked like a stud in his place. And Geno Smith's playing all right, and they got DK and Lockett still. So, I don't see them ever being that good this year, but they do have, some firepower, like you said.
Yeah, for sure. Moving on to number 25, the Atlanta Falcons. Now, yes, the Atlanta Falcons did get screwed a little bit with that Tom Brady roughing the passer call. Good on them for hanging in that game. But, it's one of those things. They just can't find ways to close it out and win. I mean, obviously for them coming back down big against Tampa is huge, but they just can't find ways to complete games, finish them off. They've had a couple leads that they've blown. I mean, they're still sitting up there. They're 2-3 right now. Only a game back of Tampa. So maybe, who knows?
Yeah, they're a really interesting team this year because they have stuck in it with some pretty good teams pretty much every single time. And then the wins they have were pretty good wins. But yeah, they're going to be up and down, I think, this entire season, but probably sticking in the 20s if I was going to guess.
Yeah, for sure. Moving on to number 24, you have the Cleveland Browns. What a disappointing football. Obviously, no Deshaun Watson, the quarterback position and Jacoby Brissett's played pretty well, but this is just another team. Like, they're in it all the time, but they just can't find ways to close out games. They got the best running back, arguably the best running back in the league, and Nick Chubb, two good receivers over there, solid defense. I know Myles Garrett is still out, so that's an issue, but yeah, I don't know. Disappointing season for Kevin Stefanski and the Browns so far.
Yeah, like you said, they've stuck into some of these games, and the Chargers are a good team, and they've had good wins, but they've had bad losses. So they're just another one of these teams where it's just like middle of the pack, you don't know what direction they're going to go in. But Watson coming back could be something that lifts them into a pretty good team. So we'll see.
Yeah, for sure.
Eventually when he comes back.
And the Chargers almost chargered that game away. So, and they still couldn't find a way to do it, unfortunately. But it is what it is. I'm moving on to number 23, the New York Jets, coming off a 40 to 17.
Yep, 40 to 17 win
victory over Miami. That's
division win.
Yeah, division win. I like Rob Saleh a lot as head coach over there. I know he hasn't really had a fair shake with that team. Nobody really does coaching the Jets, unfortunately. But man, the Jets do have a ton of pieces on that team. They got two good running backs. Zach Wilson, I think he's going to figure it out eventually. They got Garrett Wilson. They got was Elijah Moore over there. Is that his name? I'm drawing a blank.
Elijah Moore.
Elijah Moore. They got some talent on that team. Defensively, Sauce Gardner is looking to be that guy, the guy everybody thought he was going to be at draft time. So yeah, sky's the limit for this Jets team if they can just if they can just stop jetsing and figure it out and keep winning games like this. Like that's a big win. Getting 40 points put up against you is huge.
Yeah, that's a massive win. And you got to say at this point in the season, the Jets probably had the best draft from last season with Sauce, Garrett Wilson, and Brees Hall. That's a beast 1, 2, 3 right there. They did a fantastic job in the first and second round. So yeah, I mean it's the Jets, so you never know where they're gonna head. But
who's the guy they drafted? Who's the guy they drafted the group that was from Minnesota? What was his name in the first? They got him in the first round as well, bottom of the first.
The defensive end.
Yeah.
Or defense or whatever. I don't remember what his name was. It was a tough name.
Yeah, doesn't look good for us to not remember that name. But I don't know if he's done much yet.
Yeah, I haven't heard much about him, but
but I'm sure he'll pick it up. But yeah, just those other picks though in the first couple rounds, huge.
Yeah.
I'm moving on number 22, the Denver Broncos. In the ugliest football game I've seen this year to date.
One of the ugliest
the Colts on Thursday night.
Seen.
Yeah, and it's just Russell. I don't know what's wrong with Russell Wilson. Maybe he actually is washed. I don't know, but he does not look good out there. Missing KJ Hamler wide open.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
And then there's a couple. That one interception was terrible.
Yeah,
super terrible. It's nice that he's got his legs back a little bit, but man, ever since that San Francisco win that they barely won, man, it is not looking good against a Colts team that has not looked good either. And they
didn't look good.
And they looked terrible. They looked terrible, and they were the worst of the super bad teams in that game. So that says something.
Yeah, not pretty.
That's a drop.
Speaking of the Colts, number 21 staying in place. I mean, you'd like to say good win, but it really wasn't. It was gifted to them because Russell Wilson just couldn't figure it out. I mean, obviously it's a team with talent. Jonathan Taylor didn't play. They were down to their third string and fourth string running backs. Michael Pittman is the best player on that football team right now without Jonathan Taylor being there. I don't know. The defense was, I mean, the announcers say maybe the defense is playing good, but I think Denver was just playing that bad.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. This team is not, I don't think they're not very good. Let's be honest.
No. And especially if they can't get Jonathan Taylor rolling, even without the injury, he wasn't rolling like he was last year. So if he comes back, I think that team all runs through him at the end of the day. And if they can't get that figured out, then I don't think this team's going places. That's for sure.
No, definitely not. But they're in a weak division, so we'll see. Moving on, number 20, the New Orleans Saints. The New Orleans Taysom Hills, I guess. He's the only reason they won that game. I don't understand how people think he's actually ever going to throw the ball. He runs it every time he has it, and people still fall for it every time. We did it a couple weeks back. I hate Taysom Hill. I don't know why. Something about him I just don't like. But, yeah, Saints pulling off a win behind the legs of Taysom Hill.
Yeah, that's very unpredictable, or not very. That's very predictable move, but it makes Taysom Hill unpredictable in fantasy football. I was thinking about picking him up this week. But man, you have to rely on touchdowns. I mean, we've seen it before. I don't know what it is. He was the starting quarterback for half the year, or more than half the year last year. And it's weird how he's just way more effective when he gets 5 handoffs a game than he was for an entire game as a quarterback.
Yeah. Weird.
I don't know. It's weird.
Number 19, New England Patriots moving on up with Bailey Zappi as their quarterback. Their receiver core is a bunch of guys who would probably be number 2s on most teams, but they're making it work. Defensively, Bill Belichick figures it out enough to keep him in these football games. And yeah, I mean, close game against the Packers 2 weeks ago, beating who they beat this last week. Sorry, I'm drawing a blank.
The Lions. Destroyed
in the Lions this last week. Maybe Bill Belichick's onto something. Who knows? Well, and I mean, I'm sure when Mac Jones gets back, he will be the starting quarterback. But maybe they're not dead in the water like we thought.
Yeah, and that's what I said earlier in the season. It's like you can never just not. It's Bill Belichick and his defense. That can always keep them in games as long as there's not too many mistakes on offense, which Mac Jones was doing up until his injury. So when he comes back, if he can figure that out and be a little bit more like he was last year, I don't see this team. This team's just not that great, and I think Belichick's genius can only go so far. But this team is on the rise. and that defense is also on the rise. So
for sure. Moving on, number 18, a team that is not on the rise in the Jacksonville Jaguars, losing to the Houston Texans. I don't know what to think of this team. We had them up as high as 13, I believe.
I think so, yeah.
2 weeks ago,
13.
and now they're dropping all the way down to 18. Don't know what to think. Don't know what to think, man. I think they'll figure it out. I think Doug Peterson's a great head coach. Trevor Lawrence, we are starting to see his genius. Yeah, I mean, didn't have the greatest game this last week, of course, but I mean, I think they'll end up being okay.
It's just a Jags thing. Like, they're getting all this momentum. I'm even jumping on board. They barely lose to the Eagles the week before, which is our number one team on this list. And then, of course, they come and lose to the worst team in the NFL. So it's just like, all right, well, you got me, I guess. We'll see. They can bounce back, of course, but it's like you can't just go lose to the worst team. You're not. That makes me feel like you're not ready yet. You're not the Cincinnati Bengals of last year.
For sure. Moving on, number 17, the Las Vegas Raiders losing a heartbreaker against the Kansas City Chiefs. The momentum really turned after that roughing the passer call. Obviously, as we saw after the game, the Raiders players are not very happy. Some of them even push cameramen. But it's
a Packers mentality stuck in them.
No, let's be honest. It was a pretty, pretty minor thing. I get it. I mean, in that position, you do need to control your emotions better. You are a professional. But the guy press charges. Come on. Like, he got back up right after it, whatever. But yeah, Devontae, I like Devontae Adams. Dude. I think he's a good dude. I think he just, his emotions got the best of him.
Did you see the meme? I have to send it to you. There's a meme where it says, if you're the camera guy and you just found out this guy who got like $100 million contract or what, I don't know what his contract was. Pretty insane. Yeah. And it just is him like a massive slow motion flop, like getting barely pushed and just like, oh my God.
But anyway, the Raiders, that's just kind of what the season is for them right now. It's frustrating. A lot of talent, but just they can't find ways to close them out. So unfortunately, the Raiders, they dropped to 17.
Yeah.
Moving on, number 16, another team that's dropping a little bit. Arizona. This team has been so up and down all season long. I don't know if they're good or not. It might be a coaching problem. I don't know. Cliff Kingsbury. I've heard he's had a losing record everywhere he's been. So I don't know. What it is there. I think obviously Kyler's got a ton of talent. Receiver wise, iffy. Defensively, they're shaky. So I don't know, man. I don't know.
Yeah, this is an interesting team. I like the talent on there, and their defense has not been as good this year. They did, they've had some really bad losses, but this loss was a game that actually almost should have won against the Eagles, who has been like the best team. But it'll be interesting because DeAndre Hopkins should be coming back next week, I think.
Yeah.
This is week 6, so next week. So he's the kind of player that can come in and with the wide receivers not really stepping up too much, Marquise Brown a little bit. He could really change the dynamic and be that piece that kind of brings them over the top as far as being just like this average team.
Right. I feel like 16 is the perfect spot for the Cardinals this year because they've been good. They've been bad. Obviously, like you said, they hung in there with the Eagles this last week and should have at least tied it to bring it to overtime, but they didn't. So I think 16 is a really good, poetic spot for the Arizona Cardinals. Number 15. Oh my goodness, the Rams. What's wrong with this football team?
This got to be the weirdest team in this season so far.
Yep. I mean, former offensive coordinator will even become a head coach of a team that's in the top 5.
It's showing, man.
That could be a big part of it. I don't know. Matthew Stafford just does not look like Matthew Stafford of last year. He just looks shaky out. He looks like Detroit Matthew Stafford without Kelvin Johnson. So I don't know, man. I don't know. Defense isn't as great this year either. It's a weird, like you said, weird football team. Don't know what to think.
Yeah, they're just obviously Super Bowl team, not living up close to the expectation with a bad. I mean, the Cowboys are looking pretty good, but they just got smoked by them, and their offensive line is getting wrecked by everybody. And I don't know. Yeah. KOC was that guy for that team, I guess.
I don't know. Maybe if they decide to, maybe Andrew Whitworth won't be on Thursday Night Football anymore, and he'll be back suiting up in LA for the Rams.
That's what they're gonna need.
And by the way, I mean, I was watching somebody else's podcast, and they mentioned that the whole LA thing, it ain't working out very well for these teams. They get no. There was more Dallas fans at that game than Rams fans. It was pretty ridiculous. Number 14, the Tennessee Titans started off slow And Tennessee's on a surge now. They're 3-2 now, I believe, after starting out 0-2, 3 straight wins.
Yeah.
Beating up on the Washington Commanders. I mean, they still only won by 4 points, but a win's a win. I don't. Again, another team that I just don't know really what to think. Derrick Henry's been good, but he hasn't been like Derrick Henry, right?
He's stepping it up. He's getting more receptions now, actually. That's one thing that's different with him. I think he's had like almost 5 receptions in the last 2 games, which is almost unheard of.
Right.
So I mean, they're really running that offense through him again, actually, in these last couple of weeks, and I think that is a difference maker. I'm not convinced by everything yet. I still think like the lack of wide receivers and stuff's got to be, and then Ryan Tannehill is just, I don't know. Couldn't really put him much higher. Some people have him even higher than this, and I don't 100% trust them yet. But
yeah, me neither. I agree. Moving on, number 13. Tampa Bay Buccaneers dropping after the win over Atlanta. They still just don't look like a Tom Brady-led Tampa Bay Buccaneers team. Had all their weapons back last week and still just were, Defense hasn't been the defense that we've seen in the past. I don't know. This is like you said, it's Tom Brady. They're going to find a way to they're going to make the playoffs. They're going to win their division. They're probably going to make it at least to the divisional round. And, we'll see. But just from the outside, just from like a team perspective, though, this doesn't feel like a team that's destined for a Super Bowl. But Tom Brady's proved us wrong before.
Yeah, it's weird. People had him go. Most power rankings had the Bucs like shooting up on their list, and I just don't get how a game that they almost lost to the Falcons makes that deserving for them. And honestly, they remind me a lot of us in a way where we're letting these teams that we should easily beat too close to winning and beating us. The difference is that we beat the Packers pretty badly and they lost to them. So I don't know how you at this point would move them above us, but obviously you're right. It is Tom Brady and the Bucs, and they're going to move up this power rankings as soon as people saying Tom Brady's washed. All it takes is a few people to say that, and all of a sudden they're good. He's good, and everything's rolling again. So
yeah, for sure. So I'm sure this team will be higher than this come the end of the season. Number 12. Yep, the Green Bay Packers.
That was supposed to be a down. Ooh, I messed.
I was gonna say, I'm like, how are they moving up? Okay, Green Bay Packers going down. Shocker. Yeah, I was gonna say how. You lost to the Giants, and credit the Giants. The Giants are actually a pretty good football team. Let's be honest here. But in a game you probably should have won, and you can't blame the receivers because those last couple of plays, Aaron Rodgers threw the ball to his own offensive lineman and got it at his own offensive lineman and got it tipped by the defenders. So, I mean, Aaron Rodgers, I don't know, man. This team is everybody has them up near the top, like in the top 10 for some reason. They ain't deserving. They're not at all. What is showing you? They don't. Matt LaFleur, the best thing about this team right now is running the football. They don't do it enough. So I don't know how this team can be up in the top 10 when their head coach can't even see what's working and use it. I mean, I know you got Aaron Rodgers and paying him all that money, but at some point, if you're losing these games, you got to do something about it.
Yeah, there's holes on this team. There's holes on this team.
And this defense, by the way, has not looked as good as people said it was going to.
No, not even close. And yeah, I think it is annoying that people keep pushing him. It's just Aaron Rodgers. It's like Aaron Rodgers. Next week, all they have to do is win one more game, and all of a sudden they shoot right back up towards the top. And it's like people want them to be at the top so bad, but they got holes. I mean, their wide receivers are seriously fucking terrible. So I don't know how you expect them to really compete against a lot of these good teams. Aaron Rodgers is not going to be able to just do it by himself with wide receivers that he has. So until they fix that, if they went on and got DJ Moore or something, then maybe, but I hope they don't.
Or Odell or whatever. Yeah, hopefully it doesn't happen. Moving on, number 11. Yep, Miami Dolphins taking a huge drop. Obviously, this team is in quarterback hell right now. Tua probably won't play for quite a while yet. Teddy, because of Tua and that whole situation, even though Teddy cleared concussion protocol, they're going to be extra cautious with him, I'm sure. They said he might end up backing up is it Skylar Thompson?
Something like that, yeah.
Skylar Thompson this upcoming week against the Vikings. Yeah, man. And that's the thing with power rankings. Yes, the rest of the team is good, but you do got to look at certain positions. And with you going with your third string quarterback, this can't be a top 10 team, unfortunately. When Tua gets back, if they start winning some games again, then yes, we bump them back up there because the team has a ton of talent. Probably one of the top 5 wide receiver duos in the league. But yeah, without Tua, this is just, I don't know. Team doesn't look the same.
That, and then you have a Jets team that drops 40 points on you at the same
Very true.
time.
Yeah.
And then even I think the week before they had a kind of not a very good loss as well. I mean, they're still a team that beat the Bills. So that's the thing. You don't want to drop them too far. And that was with Tua, but you are letting these teams score all over you. And even with the third string quarterback, it's looking like their team is just not doing as well as a whole too. But who knows? Tua could come in and that team could just be at the top again. So we'll
For sure.
see.
Yep.
They're going to
Moving
get their
into our
ass
top
whooped.
10, jumping all the way up to number 10 is the New York Giants, beating the Packers in London. Man, Danny Dimes, you got to give him credit for what he's been doing this year. Is he elite, or is he like a really good quarterback? Probably not, at least from
No.
what I understand. But he's gritty. He had, big, you see his hand last week, came in, kept playing. He's, like I said, doesn't have a very talented wide receiver core right now, and he still makes it work. Saquon Barkley is definitely what makes this team go.
Right.
A lot of happy fantasy managers who drafted him late because people thought he was washed. And we're seeing, just it was the injuries and it was coaching. Brian Daboll is doing an amazing job over there in New York, and I'm happy to see it. I'm a huge Brian Daboll fan. We both liked him a lot, wanted the Vikings to hire him. We'll see. We'll see if they can get the most out of Danny Dimes, and they'll come up with a plan after the season what they're going to do at quarterback. But for now, things are looking pretty good. Their biggest thing is just they got to find a receiver. If that's the draft or what have you, but they got to they got to get a receiver on this team.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing for them to continue to improve. I mean, yeah, we had them at 20, put them up to 10. I think they're showing that they are kind of the real deal. I don't completely have trust in them just because they do seem like they are lacking in talent. But Brian DeBall has been massive for them, and he's like his presence just by itself. There's no question in my head that he's leading coach of the year.
For sure.
It will end up being KOC, but it's only because the Giants have a worse team.
Yeah. But man, the NFC East, though, everyone thought it was going to be pretty weak. Absolutely loaded. Moving to number 9, Cincinnati Bengals dropping one against Baltimore. This team is so up and down. It's kind of insane. I mean, the talent is there. And we saw last week, again, hurt my fantasy team a little bit here. They missed T. Higgins a lot when he was out. Yeah, the offense didn't really look the same without him in there. Some of those goal line situations. Obviously, defensively, it's tough for any team to guard Lamar Jackson. Mark Andrews had a day. I don't know, man. The Cincinnati Bengals team is super weird. Just like the team they played in the Super Bowl at the Rams. Like, I just don't know what to think yet. I mean, I know they're good, but they're not showing it.
Yeah, their offense is just not firing on all cylinders like they're supposed to. And Jamar Chase has not played nearly as well as he did his rookie year. I think we can definitely throw out that he's better than JJ out the window at this point because he has not stepped up. I think, especially obviously it's hard when everybody knows you're that guy and you're that good. But I mean, you do have T. Higgins. He was injured, but still, Jamar Chase. We just haven't seen it yet. Obviously, we know what the potential of the offense can be, and we just haven't really seen it yet. But I still think that it will. I think it will come around at some point in the season, more consistently anyway.
For sure. Moving on, number 8, you have the LA Chargers beating the Cleveland Browns. This team is without Keenan Allen now for like 3 weeks, and they're still finding ways to put up points, stay in games. Obviously, they've chargered a couple and lost them. But man, the talent on this offense, and when Joey Bosa gets back for that defense, they'll be in the playoff picture by the end of the season, of course. Justin Herbert's very talented. He's got a lot of weapons there, but we'll just see. I've never been a huge Brandon Staley guy. I think he's too analytical at points. We'll see. We'll see what they end up doing the rest of the season here. But of course, it's a really talented team, for sure. Finally, now Austin Eckler too is getting involved in the offense.
They're another team that even in the wins they have, it's probably should be a lot better than it is. And they're another team that they are winning of lately. And other teams in front of them have not been doing or have been losing, like the Bengals. So it's kind of like you kind of give them a bump from that. But even the game against the Browns, you feel like they should handle them easier than they did. But
for sure, yep. Moving on, number 7, the Cooper Rush led Dallas Cowboys are looking really, really good. That defense is explosive. Holding what they hold the Rams to, like 9? Is it under 10 points? They held the Rams 10 points exactly. Yeah. What's his name? CeeDee Lamb is finally showing out. They got a really good 1-2 punch with Pollard and Zeke there in the backfield.
And Gallup's back.
Yeah, man. I was not expecting much out of this Cowboys team, especially after Dak went down. But man, I don't know. They're looking pretty. I mean, they find ways to win games. And you got to give credit to Mike McCarthy, what he's doing over there coaching wise. His team's winning, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, they have to be the most consistent believably, or I would say impressive compared to like where everyone thought they would be, but like believably impressive. Unlike the Giants or the Titans or what I was just saying to them, the Cowboys seem like they're actually like a really good team on offense and defense, especially when Cooper Rush has been your quarterback, even though maybe he's just better than what people want to give him credit for. He's a winner, obviously, 5-0 in his career. So I think, the Cowboys are a team, they're already at 7, but they could continue making it up this list. I don't know. They just haven't
Yeah.
really shown tons of weakness. They're winning. They're
Yeah.
beating their teams pretty nicely. Like they're not like barely winning like even what we're doing, and they're not letting
Right.
teams
Do
come
you
back
know?
up to them or anything like
You
that.
know what it reminds me of?
What's
A
that?
little bit of 2017 Case Keenum and the Vikings action here, where the defense is keeping them in
Mm-hmm.
games. Like, I don't think that if this Cowboys team got down by 2 touchdowns, I don't think Cooper Rush should be able to lead them back. But I mean, if that defense can hold them, you can score first and control the ball and get leads and protect them. I think
Right,
that's the
right,
recipe for
exactly.
success here. This reminds me a lot of that 2017 Minnesota Vikings team with the backup quarterback, honestly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, I
it's
agree. I
by
think
the way,
so.
good
That's
for
a good point.
Dallas. It's impressive. It's impressive what they're doing here.
Yep.
Moving on, number 6, San Francisco 49ers. That defense is absolutely legit. Jeff
Mm-hmm.
Wilson Jr. is legit. Debo Samuel is doing his thing. Jimmy G is not turning the ball over. They're doing all this without Trent Williams on that offensive line.
Yep.
Solid work. Solid work.
Yep. I finally decided to put them up. I believe it, because before it was like, they had some pretty. I wasn't impressed with them with a couple of their wins, and everybody else had them higher. But I'm starting to believe that their team's kind of settled in a little bit, especially on
Yeah.
defense, and their
But I
defense
mean,
is killing right now.
right. But we need them to make the playoffs because the Packers are most likely going to make it too. We need those two to go against each other and
Right. Right.
need that. So San Francisco has to win their division. Packers get a wild card spot, and then they play them round 1, and you know how that goes.
No,
So
Packers ain't even making playoffs.
but
They're on the
if they
down.
do though, we need
They're on
San
the down.
Francisco because they cannot beat San Francisco.
Yeah,
Moving on,
no.
number 5, you
Fucking
got the
skull.
Minnesota Vikings.
Hey, Skol.
Big
Oh,
win over the Bears. Not really. But they find ways to win games in ways that last year's team would have lost them. So I
yeah.
mean, at the end of the day, wins are wins. The way winning this way is a big character building. We're seeing now that Kevin O'Connell was the right choice as head coach. He still has a little bit to learn, obviously, but the offense is finally starting to come together. We need them to be consistent for 4 quarters. Defensively, a lot to figure out there yet. Special teams had a bad week. It happens. I trust the special teams unit to bounce back. If they can just blow out a team, a lot of people will start to believe.
Right, right.
And
That's
right
that's
now,
all
I
it
don't think.
takes.
I mean, right now, people are just sitting there kind of on the edge of their seats, waiting. Like this team's they're gonna revert. They're gonna drop a game, and it's gonna go back to the same old Vikings. But I don't know, man. It just feels different this year with this team.
Yeah, like the talent, everything is there, and even against the Bears and the Saints, and yeah, maybe the Lions, like we kind of came back more on them, but those other 2 games, we definitely had, like, it was obvious we were the better team, and even all 3 of those games, like I still felt like we're gonna win this game against these teams, and
Yeah,
that's what we did. It's just we should be beating them by a lot more, and against the Bears, I mean, up until the first touchdowns the Bears scored at the end of the half, up until that point, it seemed like it was 100% going to be that game where we demolished the Bears, like I was calling for. And we did let them come back again, and whatever, all these mistakes. And it just does seem like these little mistakes. And like what you've said before, we're not firing on all cylinders as far as like defense, offense, and special teams. At least one of those do not play well every single week. And we've yet to see where all 3 of them, other than the Packers game, are just play well all around. And that's what I feel like we need to see. Because this game we would have definitely dominated if our special teams didn't decide to have those
right.
mistakes.
Yeah, for
So,
sure.
I mean, hopefully against Miami and their 3rd string quarterback, we do see that, which would be
Hope so.
nice because there is a lot of talent there. But
For sure. For sure. We'll see. Moving on, number 4, Baltimore Ravens beating the Bengals on Sunday Night Football. Lamar Jackson looking good out there. Defense is looking solid. John Harbaugh is an amazing head coach, one of the tops in the league. Always finds ways to keep his team competitive. I know they dropped a couple games before, but this one they held on and they won. That's really big for them, especially coming off that crushing Bills loss the week before. This is a good football team. Who's definitely I would say 90-some% chance they win their division this year.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, a lot to like about this Baltimore team. Lamar Jackson is playing himself into a lot of money in the offseason.
Oh yeah, he made some some great choices coming into this season by
Yeah.
not accepting any deals yet. And he is worth it, man. I mean, he puts his body out there probably more than some people want, but I mean, he's one of the best you'll ever see ever with the way he plays quarterback
Yeah.
position.
Yep. And he keeps himself
And
healthy too. That's the big thing. Relatively healthy. This last week, I know he missed a couple of throws he missed a wide open touchdown shot to, I don't remember who it was to, but wasn't a great look, but he's a better thrower of the football than people give him credit for.
Yeah. And if he continues getting better at that, he's still super young. It's only his third season.
For sure.
Who knows where he'll head from there, or his third or fourth season.
It's his fifth season, isn't it? 5th-year
Is it
option on his
really?
contract.
Oh man, time passes.
It is his fourth.
Still.
2017 was his rookie year, right? Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So
Or was it 18? I don't know. Either way, he's getting near the end of his first contract here. Moving on, top 3, as we mentioned, unchanged. The Chiefs handling business Sunday night against the Raiders, fell down big. After that roughing the passer call, I texted my dad and my brother, and I'm like, Chiefs are winning this game. You could just feel they were going to get a bunch of momentum from that. And it ended up happening. Travis Kelce's a monster. Not much more to say about this team. Defense is good enough. I mean, obviously, allowing the Raiders put up those many points and you to start. Devontae Adams, 2 huge touchdown bombs. Allowing Josh Jacobs to get 30 fantasy points and drop me to 0-5 again. Fantasy isn't fun.
I forgot about that.
But anyway, yeah, the Chiefs are good.
Oh man, that's so fun. That's like not
funny,
but it's
not funny.
It's man, you're up 22 points and Jacobs literally had an insane game. Yep. That's all right. I know someone who's up by like 30 points and he was against only Travis Kelce.
Yeah.
And Travis Kelce had 25 yards and 4 touchdowns. So that is crazy.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, it's Mahomes in Kansas City. You know, they're always going to have a chance to win the entire thing, and they're just, you know,
they're good.
Third is still good. They got 2 teams in front of them that have been looking absolutely insane this year.
Yeah, for sure. And number 2 team could just be 1B. Honestly, the Buffalo Bills offense is absolutely explosive. Josh Allen, dynamite quarterback. Stephon Diggs playing his best ball. They have a nice stable of running backs they can use. Defensively, I know they're still a little bitten by injury, but they'll come around. Yeah, man, this is a good Buffalo Bills team. It's going to be. I'm bummed that Bills and Chiefs isn't a primetime game this week. It was kind of. I mean, I get the Sunday night game. They should flex this one to Monday Night Football because that would be huge. But yeah, that's gonna be a fun matchup to watch. And this one will have an effect on 2-3, maybe even 1. Who knows?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And I would just want to say, like, the Bills, when they're on, they're the best team in the NFL right now. When their offense is rolling, they're just destroying teams. And it was just that one game against Miami that kind of throws them back. So I would also believe that is 1B. The Eagles have had a couple games in the last. Yeah, we'll talk about them right now. You can just bump in there. The Eagles have had 2 games. We're still at number 1. They're 5-0. It's hard not to. They've had some really good games, but they've had their last 2 games weren't like extraordinary impressive. This last game, they almost could have lost, but they didn't, and they're still in it. But part of me still believes the Bills are the better team potentially. And, you know, I think if they beat the Kansas City and Eagles play like they did last week or whatever, you got to put the Bills in front, but we'll see.
For sure. But yeah,
for now.
Anyway, that'll do it for our power rankings going into week 6 of the NFL season. Let us know your thoughts down in the comment section. We'll see you guys next time on the GG Sports Podcast.
Skol Vikes.